Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us for Bhakti Speaks. I want to welcome Jahnavi Harrison. Pleasure to have you here. Tell me a little bit how you got involved in kirtan music and the specific genre, and where did that come from?
Yeah, sure. Well, I was born in England. I was raised at a place called Bhakti Manor, which perhaps people in the US may not have heard of it, but it was a beautiful mansion house that was donated by George Harrison of the Beatles in the early 70s to the Hare Krishna movement. And my parents, both independently, before they were married, they both found their way there and were living in the ashram, and then eventually got married. And so myself and my siblings were raised there. So we were really born and raised in this bhakti environment, and it was just all around us at all times, like a bit of a bhakti bubble for the first decade of my life.
And how important do you think it is for our listeners to understand the value of a spiritual teacher or a spiritual guru, so to speak? How important do you think it has been for you?
When I was growing up, we were told, we had a little book, a little kid's book. It was like one of those cardboard books that kids can throw about, and it was called Honor Your Mother and Father. But it was a book that was teaching about all the different gurus that are in one's life from the very beginning, your parents and your teachers, nature itself, the animals. And I'm grateful that I got to have that, grow up with that understanding that there isn't just one guru, and it's not just one person that you have to find, but that guru is a principle coming from the Supreme of guidance and wisdom and knowledge. And so I think primarily my parents have been, my first gurus, and their example has been really shining in my life. Till today and beyond, I'm sure, till the end of my life. They inspire me so much and guide me so much. But I think having a teacher on a spiritual path is really vital, because I'm sure many people listening can relate that, we have usually sources, we have our own experiences, we have sources of knowledge like sacred texts or in commentaries on those texts. But to really understand and apply that when the waves of life are hitting you in the face, it's challenging, and it makes all the difference to have somebody to guide and to clear through that confusion. So yeah,
I noticed with a lot of readings, like trying to get through the Bhagavad Gita in whatever form it's presented to you.
Yeah.
People open up a chapter and they read something, a purport, and then it's very confusing to them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it was really, must have been a great honor for you to have mothers and fathers that you could look to that would give you guidance, because for most of us, that wasn't how we grew up.
Yeah.
You were very fortunate to grow up in a gurukula, so to speak, and where this presence was ongoing every day.
Yes.
Most of us are growing up in households of mixed parents, divorces, siblings, and all kinds of wild shenanigans, and hard to keep down.
Yeah.
So coming out of that space and trying to become something, I find is a little bit more difficult than coming from a place where you came from, where the transition might be a little easier.
Yeah. It's certainly it's a great fortune and a blessing to have that start and have a little bit less bumps on that, on that road of a spiritual path. But I would say that, I'm very fortunate that my parents were really committed to create a home environment that was full of learning and also just fun and, a real open-heartedness. But in any community, anywhere there's human beings, there's human problems. And, many of my friends, in their families, there was problems. There were a lot of divorced parents. There were all kinds of those community problems that come up, that there's in any community tends to be a microcosm of the world we see around us. So whatever issues we may find, they will crop up in one way or another. And so I think, definitely on the example of parents, I think whatever's going on outside the home, when parents are able to be that steadying force, it is really powerful. So I'm so grateful to them.
And what made you decide to finally get out and start to tour, for example? Why now?
Why now? Yeah, it's a good question. Well, it's been about 15 years that I've been active in sharing kirtan, sharing mantra music widely. And I think I've always approached it with a little bit of trepidation, a little bit of like, should I be doing this? Should I get a regular job? Like when I was working and serving with Gauravani, I was still, I was in my early 20s. And I think every 6 months I'd be thinking, okay, should I continue doing this, or should I just go get a regular job? Like all my friends were, getting into different things. But I did feel so much fulfillment in doing it. And particularly, it was really exhilarating at that time that a lot of these, yoga festivals had already been happening a little bit, but Bhakti festivals like Bhakti Fest and other festivals that sort of, were sparked inspiration from those things. It was something new for me to be doing that sort of outside my immediate community, and to see people coming to it that hadn't learned about this before, that hadn't encountered these experiences before, was inspiring to be a part of that. So I guess after 15 years, where I once might have been feeling a bit scared and a bit hesitant, now, like since 5 years ago, I turned 30, and I think it really shifted something for me, where I realized that, time is moving fast. And if you're going to offer something or make a contribution, not to say I don't feel scared, I feel fear all the time, but try not to be so afraid. Try to just be a little more bold and just go out there and do something, even if it's a bit risky, a bit like a little bit ambitious. If you want to serve or you want to offer something, just push a little bit, because I'm kind of quiet by nature.
I think you did the right thing. I think you're approaching your music and your kirtan by way of seva, by way of service.
Yeah.
Service to humanity, to help uplift them. And I think that makes you separate than a lot of people, because most people, of course, they're in a genre where they need to make money. Of course, you need to make money as well, but I'm saying that's not your primary reason for going out and chanting. You're chanting the divine names in order to serve humanity.
Yeah.
Do you think that is a correct way of saying it?
It is. But I have to say, it is a very delicate balance between the material needs that you have. And I definitely was able to be a lot more cavalier about that when I was 21, 22. I was like, yes, it's seva. I was not thinking about money. And that was a blessing of that time, to just be able to feel and think of it in that way. Of course, when you start having needs, like I know at the time, I was touring with Gauravani. He's about 10 years older than me. And at the time he had, as he still does, has had 3 kids. And I could see that the challenge of it was very different for him than me, just this young single woman. But I think, again, this idea of gurus, our spiritual teachers and parents, I had from a very young age that sort of drilled in is probably the wrong word, because it sort of sounds a little negative, but it was more like reinforced continuously that the primary goal and the blessing of life is to have service, a service to offer. And you won't really be satisfied by an activity until you are aligned with that mentality. It doesn't really matter if money is a part of it or not, but that service intent has to be there in your heart in a steady way. Otherwise, it can tend to just always feel transactional, and it's challenging. It's challenging in this world.
I know, especially now that you're getting out into the bigger scene and doing bigger touring, the balance sometimes is questionable, right?
Yes.
And that's what brings in a lot of the fear too, because, you know, let's say you book a place and then you have to worry about filling it and things like that. And then it brings a whole nother dimension to it. It's like when we put on festivals, you know, we invite such great luminaries and great artists, but then we have to go out and sell tickets so that they can enjoy the space. Yeah, it's a thin line.
It really is. Yeah, yesterday I was having a little meltdown because I was just like, oh, this is so stressful. Just, you know, I mean, I've never done a tour before in this way. Previously, I've done, like many years ago, you know, a lot of things in yoga studios, smaller venues. It's not so much pressure because at least, you know, there's not such a big financial outlay. But with something like this, it's a risk. And although we're very blessed to have the opportunity to do it, it's definitely feels like it's kind of outside of the realm of what I'm used to being worrying about, you know, within the actual creative or devotional aspect of it. But I think my husband was reminding me yesterday about again, back to the Bhagavad Gita, we were speaking about Arjuna's conversation with Krishna and how he was afraid to do his duty. And Krishna was telling him, well, you know, you're ultimately going to lose if you run away. You know, you have to just go forward and do it as an offering. So I'm grateful for that that reminder when I'm like, ah.
That's good. Most people don't have that reminder. They don't have that ability to fall back on a teaching like that. So therefore, it creates more stress, more disharmony for a lot of people when they're going out there.
Yeah. And I think that's part of the motivation why we are going out on tour, because as you know, kirtan is a devotional practice. It's part of a lifestyle, a bhakti lifestyle. And I think unlike a concert, I guess you could say certain music genres are very much about a lifestyle. Arguably, every music genre could be about a lifestyle. But I think people may not know that when they come to a kirtan concert, not only is a musical experience, it's a meditative experience, but you're making connection with the vibration or even the teachings themselves that can be, you know, pulled into every day of life and give real value and support through, especially the type of thing that everybody's been through for the last couple of years, which is bewilderment with a capital B, you know.
It's probably been one of the most stressful periods of time for most people on whatever path they're on. The last 3 years, it's just so hard to navigate for people. And that was one of the reasons why we held back from putting on any festivals. We are committed next year to doing a Shakti Fest in May and a Bhakti Fest in September. But we waited because we just wanted to make sure that it was the right time and the right environment. There's so much confusion out there every single day, and everybody's trying every which way to accomplish stuff. And I noticed all these young people coming out, starting harmonium lessons, wanting to become a kirtan singer and stuff like that. So many times we get submissions from people asking to come to our festival, you know, and I always come down to an old saying that Shamdas once told me, our beloved dear friend that we all have in common. He said, most people come onto the kirtan sing, they're not chanting to the divine, you know, they're chanting to the ego. And when you invite people, you need to differentiate where they're coming from, because if they're just coming to chant for their ego, for their self-gratification, it's just bringing on somebody again and again and again that's doing that. He said it's better to be with people that are chanting the names of God for the savor, for the deeper purpose.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I'd agree. And I miss Shamdas because he was so
Honest.
So honest, so straightforward in his teaching and guidance. And I love that he was never shy to just speak his mind with so much heart. I remember he once told me that I was expressing something about feeling fearful, and he said, you know, a Vaishnava, a lover of God, is not fearful. You can't be fearful, because that means you have no faith that he's, you know, protecting you at every moment. But yes, to this point, I definitely agree. Although I would say, you know, the discretion of determining who's singing with ego and not in the context of a festival or an event, that's very much with the organizer. I think it can get messy when within a sangha we look to people and try to determine, you know, is this person egotistical, is this person not? That can create an atmosphere of criticism, because the reality is we all are grappling with the ego. And even someone who says, I'm completely doing this as service, there's still the ego there that we have to, you know, it can flare up at any moment. But I definitely would wholeheartedly agree. I think I've been really fortunate also to be present in kirtan gatherings with someone leading who is really, you know, it's almost like your heart responds in a certain way when it's free from ego. You kind of just know. And it's such a transcendent, otherworldly experience that once you have the bar set like that, then you kind of don't want anything else, you know? So it eventually, everything kind of settles to its point, I think.
What advice do you have for people that, not that you're ancient and old, but you are wise for your age? And so what advice would you have for some of these younger people in their teens or in their early 20s, which I love seeing them start at an early age. It really thrills me, you know?
Yeah.
What advice would you have for them?
I would say that you can never lose, you can never go wrong with engaging with kirtan, with engaging with the names of the divine. Ultimately, it's like a washing machine. It's going to wash and purify whatever is in there that needs to be cleansed. But how long, how the journey of that, how that goes, is really down to the sincerity of practice. And I think it's important for people to just be aware that this is a deeply spiritual practice, and integrity in that is the number one thing. Because when you're praying, when you're calling out to the divine, it doesn't matter who thinks what about you. There's a truth to whatever's going on inside, and that is really all that matters. So whatever you are right now, you come as you are, and you make your offering. But it's really, really important to understand that each time you do it, it is an offering. And fame, fame or recognition. What I was told when I was younger, I was warned a lot by teachers and mentors about this, because I think they could see that I was starting to get asked to do more things or have more opportunities. And I was pretty young at the time. And they not warned me so much as like really questioned me and made me reflect on this, and would sit with me and discuss passages from sacred texts about this quality of pratishta, this desire for adoration, which is really warned about on the bhakti path because it can topple you completely. And so they would say, you just have to be conscious of that all the time and very, very self-reflective. Because if you're engaging with kirtan because you really want the fruits or the goal of bhakti, which is that pure devotional service, then doing something with the ego where you're really not aware of it is not going to work out that well. So having honest self-reflection, having good friendships, having mentors and teachers, and trying to always remember that fame or recognition is something that may come or go. It may or may not be actually that helpful in your spiritual journey. But what is being moved towards on that path of devotion is more valuable and precious than any kind of thing that we strive for, because the world is telling us like we need more likes and followers and, you know, social media recognition. It's like a rat race, you know. But it could be bewildering, especially as a young person. But I think there's so much hope and possibility in being on that path of bhakti and kirtan.
I think there's a lot more confusion since the social media situation came to.
Oh, absolutely.
In the old days, we didn't have anything. It was just raw.
Yeah.
Here you are, and that's your value, and you go out there and you do it, right?
Yeah.
But now it's just this influences, social media. Everybody will invite you. Oh, how many likes does she have?
Yep.
And I don't go like that. I just, you know, I look up a likes and I look at the individual and I see what they're doing and the work that they're doing. And that's how I base my assessment on who to invite and who not to invite. Other people go by how many likes you have, because that will draw more people to the eventual sale of it, right? It's very confusing, you know.
Very confusing and very damaging, really, when you are trying to make those calls. I mean, not everyone is going to have the experience or the intuition that you do, having been doing this and being involved with these practices and this path for so many years, being a practitioner. It's very confusing. And for someone like me, I mean, you know, I'm glad that I experienced life before social media, but now I'm very much also in it. And it is absolutely bewildering, because in order to just tell people in the world that you're doing something, you have to engage with these tools. And the way to engage with them, you know, I'm sure many people have heard about all about the way these technologies work. You know, it responds to certain types of things. Like now, for example, on certain media platforms, the short form video is really what it is. It's no more photographs or nicely written pieces of text. It's all about these little videos. So unless you can fit into that little framework of making something entertaining in 15 seconds, then it's not, people may not see what you're putting out there. So I think you either have the choice to sort of embrace it with a certain level of like detachment, or not, and see what happens. I don't know. It's confusing.
I mean, to bring it all down to 15 seconds.
Yeah.
To all the work that we do.
Yeah. I
kind of feel bad that it's coming down to that. Yeah. I'd rather not even go in that direction and just continue a long form, let's say, hanging out and doing a piece and doing and sharing that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And don't worry about the ADD that we all have, that we can't sit down and listen to somebody speak for a half hour or an hour. I love that. When I get a video and somebody sends me stuff, I watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm not, you know, I'm still listening to Ram Dass's stuff from 1982, back then, and they're like 2 hours long. And I just have it on while I'm doing my work.
Yeah.
It's not people like him never cared about the short forms and the 15 seconds clip, you know.
I think it takes training. I think it takes training for the attention, and those who practice meditation or who have lived a lot more of their life before these type of kind of very, very short media forms, you know, became prevalent. I think it's a little easier, but now I see like people are, the predominant way of listening to things, many of my friends, like they listen to podcasts, radio shows, audiobooks, but only while doing something else, always while doing something else. And of course, when you're in person with someone, it's easier to keep your attention, but still our attention is so fractured. It's difficult. That's why I really believe in the power of kirtan, because I think music somehow does really capture the attention in a powerful way. a little easier than listening to someone speaking, at least for a mass of people, myself included.
Definitely, and that brings up the importance of a path, a foundation, a daily practice. What is your thinking of Bhakti yoga, Bhakti path? I mean, Bhakti is thrown around all the time, has so many different connotations to people when it only has a few. But what does Bhakti path or Bhakti yoga mean to you, and how are you dealing with that?
My understanding of the Bhakti path is a path of cultivating or restoring a pure, loving relationship of service with the Supreme, by whichever name you call him or her. And there are a multitude of ways to do that. There are considered to be, I mean, at least in the Bhagavad Purana, it spoke about nine different practices that you could be doing. You could be doing all of them. You could be doing a few of them. You could be doing one just perfectly. And the two that are spoken of most prominently are Shravanam, Kirtanam, hearing and praising, hearing and sharing the glories in whatever way you do that. So my understanding is that, I mean, I often think, like, my sister now has young kids, and I see the way that she serves them, and, changing their diapers and doing everything. That love is based on, a lot of the time, some very repeated actions and gestures that are not always, you don't always feel like doing it. It's not always pleasant, but you do it out of love. And that's why I do think a practice is really important to sort of to show your love, show how deep is your love, so to speak. Because otherwise love, like, even just in a secular sense, the word love, it just has so many meanings. It gets thrown around, means so many things to so many people.
Way too much.
Yeah. But I think obviously Bhakti yoga is an ancient path. It's an ancient tradition. But there are very simple and practical ways to make that real in your daily life without having to turn your life upside down and, move into an ashram or something. Just having a simple practice in the morning for a short amount of time, whenever it's convenient, I think it can really transform an entire life. Really, that's what I've seen, and I feel in my life that's the power of it. Although you could say I've grown up with it, but I've definitely had a specific time where I chose to practice and follow.
It's a Bhakti path for me is not a lazy path.
Yeah.
You're not going to get away with too much.
Yes. Not at all.
Right, of your old thinking, right?
It's a path of absorption, which actually demands everything.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's a very deep absorption. And by having a daily practice of whatever it is, meditation, yoga, listening to kirtan music, reading spiritual books, when you have the choice to go in that direction, rather than, I'm going to the movies, or let's go out for a drink. It's all okay. I enjoy everything. I lead my life. I'm here. I do everything in moderation. I don't try to do anything in excess, because I believe in the middle path. And when we go over that middle path, it's hurtful. When we go under that middle path, it's hurtful. So each person has to find that middle compassionate path for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
What's for you is not for me, because we're all individuals.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the very important. I noticed that people should develop their particular path, that they're not following somebody else, because a lot of times people, they go to an event, they see pictures of gurus, they haven't met those gurus, they think that, by looking at the guru or casting the eye, they're going to have an experience, which in a lot of respects they do, in a lot of respects they don't. A lot of disappointment comes from that.
Yeah.
a lot of questioning what they're doing. What's your take on that kind of stuff?
I think at least, again, going back to the Bhagavad Gita, it says that for a person trying to find their path, they should approach a spiritual teacher and ask them questions sincerely, and also try to serve them. And by approaching with that humility, but also intelligence, using your own intelligence to ask questions, and don't stop asking questions till you feel satisfied that I really trust this person, and now this humility can become transformed into something that, I mean, maybe, surrender is a big word in the English language, but in the Bhakti tradition in Sanskrit, to submit oneself before somebody, that's a big thing. And it's required on a path, of any kind of path. If you're training to be an athlete, you need to have a coach, and you really need to follow what they're telling you to do. But our sense of the value of that is a little broken in today's world, because we do see and hear so many stories of people that cheat and are corrupt in their guidance of people who are coming before them in a vulnerable way. But that doesn't mean that there aren't still very, very genuine people. And so, yeah, to your point, I think it's not a lazy path, for sure, but you do have to find your own place within it. And I think it's also important to remember that there are phases of life. Traditionally, there's times of life where you have the time. I mean, this is even, just obvious, even in a person's life. When you're young, many people take up an instrument when they're a child, and they may not have time. It's another time of life. So taking on a spiritual practice, you may only be able to do this much if you're a mother and you're raising young kids. And then, like my mom, I know she had diminished her practices while she was bringing us up, and then now she's in her, getting towards her late 60s. Now she has so much time. She has multiple reading groups that she's a part of. She's diving in, and it's always a path of self-reflection, self-awareness, and also sangha, opening up to hearing from others about how to best practice, how to best go forward.
Absolutely. And I noticed there has been, over the years, we see all this corruption, as you call it, in the spiritual world. It's the same kind of corruption that's in the outside world.
Yeah.
There are people that are going to come in, they're going to see an opportunity in the yoga world or in the guru kind of world to take advantage of people.
Yeah.
And that becomes, many people become disillusioned with that. And it really affects them in a very, very deep way, because they did try to surrender, but they surrendered to a false entity, a false guru, a false teacher. Yeah. False meaning that they weren't fully cooked themselves.
Yeah.
Right. Even the teachers are going through stuff. It's not like everybody is an enlightened being. So what I think is important is to go see people, go listen to people, go read, and take a little here, a little there, a little here, a little there, and adapt it to who you are and what works for you in your life, as opposed to just diving right into something and then, getting disillusioned, which at the end, you'll just turn away from everything at that point.
Yeah. 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 Given the past history of what we've seen in recent years and in the course of time, it's not like these things never happen, but it does make sense to be cautious and, open, but very responsible with where we're placing our trust. And I definitely have not been, immune to the disappointments of seeing people who said they were something or presented themselves as something being not, as you said, not fully cooked. That's a really nice way of putting it. My parents went through that too. They definitely had a really illustrious guru, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. But then after his passing, there were other leaders who did not have the same integrity, and they were they were on those up and down waves of the consequences and reactions that happen, and especially in community. And they stayed steady through that. And I really respect that. And I think one of the things I've observed in their lives was strong friendships with like-minded people on the spiritual path that really almost, it's not to say it's more important. It's very important to have a guide, but it's very, very, if not equally important, to have spiritual friendships. And even if it's just one or two people.
Absolutely. That is a wonderful thing you just said, because it's very difficult to find a teacher and a guru, but to be around Sangha, to be around like-minded people, is easier.
Yeah.
And instead, for me, instead of running around, instead of running around, going here and going there and going there, to be in association. Oh, we're having a little chanting on Friday. Great. I look forward to it. I recommend, I highly, I come into LA, but we're 3 hours outside of LA, but I like to go in occasionally once a month to go listen to Govinda and Radha, who have programs up in Topanga, and they're holding down the kirtan space in Southern California. And it's just so nice to see a gathering of 50, 80, 100 people.
Yeah.
It's not a big event where they're not doing it for money. They're doing it to keep the Sangha together. And people come, they share space, they hang out afterwards, have a little to eat and commiserate about life. And everyone goes out. You're eventually going home, right?
Yeah.
Then you have to take that and apply it to your everyday life.
Yeah.
All these moments of teachings, all these readings, and when we go to hear a lecture, or we read something, or we go listen to kirtan, we take that out with us, and continuously imbibe that love and that beauty.
Yeah.
It's super important.
It's so important.
Yeah. How did you decide, when you decided on coming out with a tour? Where are you? Are you living in the States now? Or are you in?
I am. I'm living in the States. I'm living in New Jersey right now.
Oh, you are. I'm so happy you got married. It must be, it's a whole different dimension right now.
It really is. Yeah.
You've done all this on your own in the past. Now you're doing this again now, but you have a partner with you. So
yeah. And I'm really grateful. He's very he's really supportive, and we also we talk a lot about the different challenges and things that arise, and it's a blessing to have a partner like that, for sure.
And you're supportive with each other.
Yeah.
Right. It's just not one-sided.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
I try to support him as well.
And that's the key here for a happy and successful relationship. And it's not necessary that everybody has to be in a relationship. That's kind of a frustrating thing for people, I got to get married, I got to have kids. No, we don't have to do anything. What we really have to do is dive deep into our inner being and become a better human being. Yeah. At the end of the day, when we're lying in bed ready to leave our bodies, it's not how many cars we have out there and how much money and how much kids or how many family. It's nothing. It's, how much time did you spend devoted to chanting the names of God and to being compassionate, loving, and kind to people. Yeah. So I was asking about your tour. Tell me, how did you decide to do the various cities? What cities are you going to? I remembered it, but I forgot. You can tell me.
Yeah, so we're going to 5 cities: New York, Atlanta, Chicago, Dallas, and LA. And we really, we've been saying so many things about not appreciating social media, but it's helpful in the sense that through social media and music streaming, we were able to look at some data of, well, where are people listening to at least music that I've recorded and released? Because obviously you want to know that there's people in that place that might want to come to something like that. So we took the top 5 places, and New York and LA will be obvious for me because I've been basically living in and around New York for the last 4 years. And then LA is a place where there's such a strong Bhakti community. And the other 3 is going to be interesting because really spent much time in those three cities in many years, and it's kind
Where
of an
where
adventure.
where where are they?
Atlanta, Chicago, and Dallas.
Oh, I think they have a big group of following out
I
there.
think so. Yeah, it's just a question of getting the word out. So we're very much in the time of trying to activate all of our networks of friends and supporters and just get the word out. Not only because of course you can do so much stuff online and it's paid ads and all these things, but I think being all about bhakti, it's also very beautiful when things spread in a grassroots organic way through friends, through network of like-minded souls, because ultimately that's who's coming together for an event like this, is like-minded people that understand the value of something like this. It's not just any old concert.
That's right. It definitely isn't just any old concert.
Yeah, and not because it's me leading it, because of the substance of what we're sharing.
How long is the event each night?
It will be 2 hours.
Is there a break, or are you going straight through?
We're gonna go straight through.
Right.
Yeah.
Who do you have accompanying with you?
Yes. So I have three from England and two from the US. The one that's probably the most familiar to some of your listeners will be Krishna Kishore from the Mayapuris. He's a drummer and incredible flute player and a very dear friend. He'll be with us. And then Ananda, who's a fantastic kirtan vocalist and a very dear sister of mine from Russia and from England. Kaylee Woods, another friend from England who's multi-instrumentalist and devotional singer. And then we have Ben, who's a beautiful bass player that I've been working with. He predominantly plays with spiritual music. And then I've also, in the last year, I've been working on a new EP. It's a new piece of music that's, I guess, pushing out of my comfort zone a little bit into writing more songs in English, devotional songs in English, which, I grew up singing Sanskrit and other devotional songs in other languages. And so it took me a long time to put my own words to music and offer that. But I've been working on that with a producer called Chris Scholar, who's also a wonderful guitarist. So he's going to be on tour with us, and we're going to share some of that new music alongside all of the familiar chants and songs that are loved by many.
That's fantastic, and it's wonderful to hear, because I think the English renditions and the English new songs that you're coming out will be more, it's easier for a lot of newcomers to take in.
Definitely. And I think there's a value to both things. I'm seeing, like, I grew up with this call and response practice of chanting, and I deeply connect with it. I treasure it. But everybody listens to music. Everyone listens to songs, and songs are an incredibly powerful medium to convey moods and feelings and expressions. And I see the songs as being, like a sort of, there's like a two prongs to the offering. One is the mantra chanting, which is kind of a heart of it. But the songs are like an offering of art in devotion. It's poetry, it's music, it's personal expression. They don't necessarily have to be songs that people learn and sing back in a call and response way, but just like a moment, of sharing a little window into a thought or a world, and then we come back to the chanting. So I'm looking forward to see how that will be. It's something new, but I'm kind of excited about that, actually.
Merging into the mood, merging into the bhav.
Yes.
That's what you're trying to establish.
Yes.
Where could people find more of your music? What traditional channels do you have your music on? Because I don't hear much on Sirius radio. Occasionally on Krishnadas radio, I hear.
Perhaps on Krishnadas radio, yeah. But they're on all other streaming platforms: Apple, Amazon, Spotify, and then YouTube. There's a lot on YouTube, both of live things, and also the last few years I've been releasing a lot of music. So a lot of them have accompanying music videos. That's something we've tried to do, because it's a video driven world these days. And it's also, you know, as a visual medium, it's a beautiful thing to try and create art that accompanies these pieces of music. So last year we did people might enjoy, we did a proper music video, which was filmed on 16 millimeter proper film. And we did it during the pandemic, during the lockdown. And it was as a production over 2 countries. We filmed half of it in Australia remotely and half of it here in New York, on a rooftop. And it's a beautiful narrative, but the chant is Govinda Jaya Jaya, and the story of it is really one of isolation and connection during that pandemic period, which so many of us experienced. So all of that's all on YouTube as well.
And where can people find your schedule for your appearances? Where is that listed?
So on social media, so Instagram, Facebook, but also on my website, jahnavimusic.com, and then /events. But even if you just go to jahnavimusic.com, it's there on the front page. And yeah, you can find all the info there. And we also have a promotion right now, 10% off. So people can use the code STAR10, and just a little extra bonus for the time.
It's very helpful, actually.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think the ticket prices are too high, but even that extra 10%.
A little bit, it makes a difference.
Yeah, people like that, you know.
Yeah.
They love to get a little discount, even though, you know, your ticket prices aren't that extreme anyhow. And so in Los Angeles, for example, when are you going to be there? I think it's November
3rd of November.
3rd of November at the Wilshire Evel.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I was there recently to see Krishnadas when he was there.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, he was there for 2 nights. It's a beautiful auditorium.
It's beautiful. I got the chance to visit about a month ago, and I know that Krishnadas has been there. I think Deva Premal, Snatam Kaur. Yeah. And it feels so special that space has hosted so much chanting, because it's a historic theater also. They told me that Judy Garland was first discovered on that stage, and so many others.
Very famous place, and there's plenty of parking there. I felt good going there. Very safe area, and lots of parking.
Yeah.
Good seating. I actually sat up on the balcony because I like to spread out.
Yeah.
The sound quality was excellent, no matter where you were in that theater.
Yeah, I saw that when I went there. They were saying that it was built for no amplification, so the acoustics are incredible wherever you're sitting. Sure. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to, and LA will be our final concert. So I think if anyone's watching this and is on the West Coast, that will definitely be a special one. We also are gonna likely have some special guests at each of the concerts who may come and feature and share something. I can't say who they are, but if you show up on the night, you will find out.
I'm sure you're going to have a lot of special guests.
Yeah.
This is your first tour, and you have so many wonderful friends that love you so much that's going to want to say, hey, I want to come out and support you. And that's going to be a big surprise for people. So
very grateful.
They should definitely tune into that. Anything else you'd like to talk about? Because I think we are getting close to our time, but I'm really looking forward to, I'm really strongly recommending whatever city you are in America to come out and see Jahnavi. She's absolutely, I don't say this about many people, and I'm not blowing your horn for any reason whatsoever, because I actually have been following you since you were very young, you know.
Yeah.
I think maybe 15 years ago we met or something like that.
Yeah.
So I've seen you come up from a shy little girl and get up there and play your violin that, you know, enthralled me every time I heard it. And then your voice just, you know, I'm all about real talent and real devotion and real compassion. And you have that all. And I'm here to support you. And I hope, and I know I won't be there in November because I'll be in India.
Yeah.
Just finishing up Kartik in Vrindavan.
Yeah. And, amazing.
So I'll be there, but you know, we're sending a lot of people to come. So
thank you so much. I really appreciate your encouragement and your words and everything that you've been doing for all these years to support and nurture and introduce people to Bhakti. And I think that's just one thing I would add, that apart from people considering whether they personally would like to attend the concert. I do think that events like these are really beautiful opportunities to introduce somebody to a little bit of this Bhakti culture and Bhakti world, because it's not a big commitment. It's an evening. And it's beautiful. It's music, it's art, and in a familiar environment of a theater. It's not like going to a temple or going to a big Bhakti festival, you know, and not that that's wonderful too, but many people might feel like, oh, that's not for me. I don't know what that's about. So I just say, if people have a friend or a family member that they would like to introduce to it, I think it's a beautiful opportunity to do that as well.
I definitely, this is the kind of place I take my mother.
Yeah.
I don't know about my father, but I would definitely take my mother.
Yeah.
And my siblings who are on the fence about all this Bhakti stuff.
Right.
You take them to one of these evenings and they'll say, oh, now I understand a little bit more.
Yeah. I know we did a few, couple years back, did a big one in New York. And my mom, for example, comes from a Jewish family, and some of our relatives came and they sat on the front row, and I looked at them halfway through and they were like really into it. I was very surprised because, you know, it was something very new for them. But I think when you're in that atmosphere, it's just it's beautiful. It feels communal and it feels very loving. And I think anyone can appreciate that, especially in the time we're in now after the last couple of years. So I really look forward to seeing everyone out there, and I'm very, very grateful to have had the opportunity to speak with you today. And after so long, it's really you look better than ever, I would say also.
Thank you so much, and I look forward to more interviews and more meetings together, and certainly
Absolutely
look forward to seeing you next year for Shakti and Bhakti Fest, because
I really hope so. Yeah,
you're a big part of our family, and best of everything on this tour and in your new relationship. And I feel very blessed to know you, and you're very inspiring, and you're a wonderful, compassionate, loving being. And thank you for who you are.
Really. Thank you so much, Sridhar. Wishing you a wonderful, wonderful rest of the time. And I'm excited that you're going to be in India for Kartik. How wonderful.
Thank you all for joining us. Jahnavi Harrison, thank you. Much love and light. And thank you so much.